We have finished the book of Exodus and we're going to begin the book of Leviticus. Exodus ended off with the creation of the tabernacle. The book of Leviticus is quite interesting. It contains a lot of the laws of the Old Testament, and some of them are interesting to look at, and maybe we can find some neat, nuanced insights from studying it. Leviticus 1:1. The Lord called to Moses out of the tent of meeting and said to him, 1:2. Say to the Israelites, when any man of you brings an offering to the Lord, you shall bring your offering of domestic animals from the herd or from the flock. So we have the idea here that the animals need to be raised domestically to be valid for the sacrifice. And I think some of that has to do with the way that value is taken. God wants to have value in the sacrifices, that if it's just something simply found or picked up off the side of the road, or you found it in the wilderness and bring it back to sacrifice, you're sacrificing something that has no value. So it would be a very poor offering. That's why I think in the Passover feast, we have that idea of bringing the lamb into the house, and everybody kind of has a relationship with the lamb before it is sacrificed. So there's an emotional cost to it. I think Cain and Abel, he gave a bunch of fruit and nuts to the Lord, and Abel gave the sheep that he was raising to him, and Abel's sacrifice or offering was accepted, but Cain's was rejected. Another example that would be kind of interesting in this context would be Abraham and Isaac. Abraham was ready to sacrifice his son Isaac to show his faith to the Lord, and at that last minute, right as he's drawing the knife up to slay his son, he gets a substitution, and God provides a ram for him to sacrifice. There may be other reasons, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what else happens in the law, and maybe we'll understand clearer on why things are the way they are. The Bible is a book of patterns. Leviticus 1:3. If his offering is a burnt offering from the herd, he shall offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it at the door of the tent of meeting, that he may be accepted before the Lord. So we have another idea here as far as offerings go, and that is the idea of the animal being without blemish. The animal is not allowed to have broken bones, bad teeth, can't be sickly, have weird diseases. It has to be young and healthy and fit. God's not interested in taking out the trash. He only wants the best for his sacrifices or his offerings. Leviticus 1:4. And he shall lay both his hands upon the head of the burnt offering, transferring symbolically his guilt to the victim, and it shall be an acceptable atonement for him. 1:5. The man shall kill the young bull before the Lord and the priest. Aaron's sons shall present the blood and dash it round upon the altar that is at the door of the tent of meeting. So we have the man bringing his animal in to be sacrificed. He brings in his unblemished animal. And I think they check it out first to make sure it's without blemish, and he's in front of the tent there, in front of the tent of meeting. He places his hands on the animal and symbolically transfers his sin to the animal, and when it's time, he slays the animal and kills it, and then the priests take over. Leviticus 1:6. And he shall skin the burnt offering and cut it into pieces. 1:7. And the sons of Aaron the priest shall put fire on the altar and lay wood in order on the fire. 1:8. And Aaron's sons the priest shall lay the pieces, the head and the fat in order on the wood, on the fire, on the altar. 1:9. But its entrails and its legs he shall wash with water, and the priest shall burn all of it on the altar for a burnt offering, an offering by fire, a sweet and savoring odor to the Lord. So the animal is slain. It has been killed. The priests are taking some of the blood and dashing it on the altar to prepare the altar for the sacrifice. Then they're cleaning the animal up, they're skinning it, they're cutting it into smaller pieces. The legs are washed. The legs, the animal walks around, so there's probably dirt on the legs, so they're all cleaned up. And the entrails, well, that's the digestive tract, and that's kind of cleaned up. That'd be the other real dirty part of the animal. So once the animal's kind of cleaned up, they burn the whole thing on the fire, so they need to add extra wood to it, but they burn it on the fire till there is nothing remaining. Burn it to ash, fully consumed by the flame. So the sacrifice in this instance is a young male cow, a young bull. So it's probably got a good amount of weight to it. So cutting it into smaller pieces probably makes it easier for the priest to lift it onto the altar to consume it by flames, and would reduce the risk of getting repetitive strain injuries or any other kind of pain from this type of work. So it makes sense as to why it is done the way it is. Leviticus 1:10, and if the man's offering is of the flock, from the sheep or the goats, for a burnt offering he shall offer a male without blemish. 1:11, and he shall kill it on the north side of the altar before the Lord. And Aaron's sons, the priests, shall dash its blood round about against the altar. 1:12, and the man shall cut it into pieces, its head and its fat, and the priest shall lay them in order on the wood that is on the fire on the altar. 1:13, but he shall wash the entrails and legs with water. The priest shall offer all of it and burn it on the altar. It is a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, a sweet and satisfying fragrance to the Lord. The first sacrifice that we saw here in this chapter was the young bull, the young male cow. Now, a cow is a valuable animal. They are not inexpensive by any means. And what we have here is a case where maybe somebody can't afford the cow. They are not as well off, or it's just not available. Whatever the circumstances, we have an alternative here. We have the sheep and we have the goat from the flock. A less valuable animal, but God is still going to accept it as a burnt offering, just the same as he would with the bull. We saw with the bull that it was done in front of the door of the tent of meeting. This one is done on the north side of the altar. So I believe that's the right side. Like you go in the entrance to the right of the altar, that's where this one is going to occur. So the man, the one who is making the offering, slays the animal. The priest takes some of the blood and they dash it on the altar. And then the man cuts the animal apart. And then he also cleans the entrails of it and the legs. And the priests are the ones who take this to the altar and then burn it on the altar till it is totally consumed by the flame. And we got one more here. Leviticus 1:14. And if the offering to the Lord is a burnt offering of bird, then the man shall bring turtle doves or young pigeons. 1:15, and the priest shall bring it to the altar and wring off its head and burn it on the altar, and its blood shall be drained out of the side of the altar. 1:16, and he shall take away its crop with its feathers and cast it beside the altar on the east side in the place for ashes. 1:17, and he shall split it open, holding it by its wing, but shall not cut it in two, and the priest shall burn it on the altar, and the wood that is on the fire. It is a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, a sweet and satisfying odor to the Lord. In this case, and in this instance, we have the bird offering. Now these birds here, these are really small birds. So we have the priest removing the head of the bird. So he kind of pinches it and pulls, and it kind of just comes off. Puts the head into the altar, and it's going to be kind of cooked away in there. And then he is removing this portion of the bird. So here we have the bird sacrifice, and these birds here, the young pigeon and the turtle doves, they're really small birds. It's not a turkey or an ostrich by any means. So the priest, he picks them up, he takes them over to the altar, kind of a pinch and a pull, removes the head of the animal, throws that on the fire. It gets consumed by the flame. The blood is drained out over the side of the altar. And then we have the crop, which is removed, and the crop is kind of like the pre-stomach of the bird, kind of part of the digestive tract, and that's put in the bin for where the ashes go. The feathers are also removed, and they're also placed there as well. Then we have the splitting of the bird open, and all of this is done by hand. This is a very gentle, soft creature, and there's enough hand strength to simply pull it open. He's not ripping it right in half. He's just kind of parting it a bit, splitting it open, and then allowing it to be consumed by the flame on the altar. God seems to be looking after a multitude of people here by having different variants of this burnt offering. To the person who is well off and is doing very well, they can afford to sacrifice the young bull, the young male cow. But to a lot of people, that would be financial ruin to have to pay the value of such an animal. So we have the goat and the sheep as a substitute. And those who are in a really rough situation, we have the turtle dove and the pigeon. By having different levels of sacrifice, it made it so that God was available to all of his people, and no one would be prevented from interacting with him, but they could all have a relationship with the Lord. So I may have misspoke earlier with the burnt offering, in that the skin was burnt with the animal as far as the bull went. It's my understanding now that when the animal was skinned, the skin was removed and it was not burnt with the rest of the animal. This was one of the things that the priest would be able to obtain after doing this sacrifice. The priests have a portion depending on the sacrifice type, and in some of the sacrifices they get a little bit of food, and in this one they get some animal skins, which they would be able to tan and make leather of and use for whatever purposes they need to, or sell them if they needed to get money or something. It's kind of like the wages of the priest for performing this action. God has a way of looking after the priests in a variety of different ways, and some of them are very unique in the methods that they get payment in. Of course, we have a better sacrifice here in the New Testament. When Jesus came and died on the cross, he was without blemish. And with his death as a person who lived a perfect life, one that had no sin, he was able to defeat sin and make it so that we could all have a relationship with God. This is why we no longer need to do annual sacrifices or have any of these sin offerings anymore. And if you tried to do one today, it would kind of be blasphemous. That would be saying that Jesus' sacrifice was not good enough. Sections like this in the Bible are good to understand when it comes to the mechanics of how sin works, how sacrifices work, and how sacrifices are able to atone for sins.